Thursday, Crane and Company. We shall not be stopped. The Nashville Blizzard, the great Nashville Blizzard of 2024 cannot stop us. We'll go remote. The flu or the plague or whatever the hell is that we all have right now, including Blaine, which is the reason why he's not here. It's not going to stop us. It's going to be me and David Cohn steering the ship today. We appreciate you guys joining us this morning. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Going to be remote tomorrow as well. Hoping to get back in the studio next week. Our beautiful, warm, illustrious studio, even though the home setup, shout out to wifey for the Christmas presents, really been upgraded. But I want to go ahead and welcome you to Crane and Company, the Thursday edition. Remember, if you donate, it will be read. We're going to get to your comments. Can't do live calls today again because we're remote. But we are going to be diving deep into the Booster Club. So again, like I said, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and welcome to Crane and Company. But where I want to start, Jim Harbaugh, right, has interviewed with a couple NFL teams. It's been all the rage, really, during the season. If he did win it, would he leave? We've talked about that many times. And trying to guess what Jim Harbaugh is going to do is futile, right? We can speculate. We can talk about it. Nobody knows what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. He's basically the Joker. You never know what he's going to do next. And I'm not going to try to guess what he's going to do. But I will say what I think he should do. And Michigan fans, you're probably going to be 13 flavors of pissed off, but that's okay because you're going to understand what I'm saying. If you grew up with a sibling or you had a close friend or a cousin or somebody that was kind of your competition. You had a lot of respect, but you grew up competing, whether it's for affection, whether it's for championships, whether it's just one-on-one basketball in the driveway, right? There's always that one person. And Jim Harbaugh's done a ton. He's done a ton in his career. It's already been a very illustrious career, capped off with a national championship at Michigan. But Jim Harbaugh hasn't won a Thanksgiving since he lost to John. Jim Harbaugh hasn't won a Christmas dinner since he lost to John. Hell, he hasn't even won, hey, let's get together on Halloween and let the kids go trick or treat. Because he can win all the national championships he wants at Michigan. And it's incredible. Greatest coach, in my opinion, to ever coach at Michigan. But he did lose a Super Bowl to his brother, John. So every Thanksgiving, when their dad, Jack's, cutting the turkey, it feels like there may be a little bit more affection for John, even though Jim's doing great. Congrats on winning the college championship at your alma mater, bud. I'm really proud of you. But, John, you remember that Super Bowl? The biggest game in football, the worldwide phenomenon that is the Super Bowl? Until Jim gets back there and wins that, he's not winning family gatherings. And that's important. I got a brother. We still compete all the time. All the time. So deep down, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, there's nothing else I can accomplish at Michigan. Let's be honest. Got him back to the top of the mountain. It's a great time to go, to get off the roller coaster and go back and try and just win Thanksgiving dinner again, David. I mean, we talk about the SEC. It just means more. Family rivalries. It just means more. It's a great time to bring in former Michigan quarterback David Cohn. David, what say you? Why am I 100% correct? Just like everybody in the chat, I'm sure, agrees with me.
Well, we all do the Jim Harbaugh to the NFL song and dance every single offseason. Why wouldn't we do it the year he wins the national championship and has his best season ever? Look, you said a lot of things right there. Jim Harbaugh is always going to have interest from the NFL because of what he did with the San Francisco 49ers. That program was in decline for 15 years since Steve Young won the Super Bowl in the mid-90s. He resurrected it. He's always going to have NFL interest, right? And because we've seen these rumors pop up every single offseason, it proves that he's entertaining them. Nick Saban, I think, could go coach at the NFL level again throughout his second stint at Alabama, but those rumors never really popped up after they made him the highest paid coach because he wasn't entertaining them. It makes sense for a lot of reasons. And when you talk about the family dynamic, clearly it was proven true by Jim Harbaugh's first words after winning the national championship. What did he say at the podium? He said, I can now sit at the big boy table at Thanksgiving. My father won a national championship. My brother won a Super Bowl. Now I can sit at the big boy table. Not just a metaphor like that. He said at Thanksgiving, which is the phrase you have been using for a long time. So clearly that means something to him. I understand why he would want to return to the NFL. I honestly think it has more to do with two things. One, the NCAA constantly trying to run this guy out of college football, which I think is a real miss. I see him as sort of our, the very similar to a Mike Leach, right? He's great for college football. Keep him in the game. Don't run him to the NFL. But then the other part of it too is the NFL is just going to be able to pay him more money. I've heard that the Chargers are putting together an offer between $15 and $18 million annually. He has the same agent that Sean Payton had, who worked, I think that was it $18 to $20 million a year from the Broncos, something like that. So Michigan's not going to be able to match that, even if they made him the highest paid coach at 5, 13 million a year or something like that. I just don't think they're going to be able to get up into the NFL range, which those numbers just keep climbing higher and higher. And honestly, Jake, what better time would there to be right now? I can't remember the exact phrase you just used in your open, but he's done all he can do for Michigan, something like that. I think you're exactly right. I mean, I personally, I have a vested interest in this program, having played there. Of course, I want Jim Harbaugh to stay now that he's created all this momentum. Michigan fans want him to stay. You've finally gotten over the hump. We have something special we're building. You do your version of what Nick Saban was able to do. But Michigan fans will never love the guy more than they do right now. If he won 5 championships in a row, it wouldn't be any more affection than that first one that you were able to get over the hump and have the greatest season in Michigan history. So for a lot of reasons, it makes sense for Jim Harbaugh to return to the NFL. But at the same time, we never know what this guy's going to do. No one knows what this guy's going to do. And retiring as the head coach at Michigan certainly would mean a lot to him. His family's already in Ann Arbor. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way.
Yeah, and listen, you never forget your first kiss, right? And Michigan fans have been kissed before. It's just been a long time. Y'all been in a coma for a long time. Like, you woke up out of a coma, hey, you got that first kiss back, and you remember how great it was. So I agree with you 100%. And again, it goes back to something a lot. I don't think the word is barbaric, but it goes back to something deeply instinctual. Like, at some point, the second brother, the one who's not in line to be king, he wants a taste of that glory too. You let him sit at the table, all of a sudden, hey, maybe he wants to be head of the table. Maybe he thinks he should get together an army and go take over. There's something about it. And you grew up with siblings, David, you understand what I'm saying. And look, when it comes down to the NFL and the franchise that gets him, that's a whole nother matter. That's a whole nother discussion. But if you're a Michigan fan that says, no, we don't want this party to be over. We don't want this to be done. We're enjoying our time in the sun. I get that. But guess what? There's no need to panic. You want to know the plus side of having your head coach suspended for like half the games over the past 2 seasons? You got a guy in Sharon Moore that's basically been the head coach in the biggest games outside of the college football playoff. What better on-the-job training than to actually do it against Ohio State? To actually have to do it in some of the biggest games and the biggest moments when you're not even the head guy, let alone being the head guy, having that even more control than what you've had. So you've got a proven guy in Sharon Moore that can do it. So even in the worst case scenario, because I think Moore would be the guy that would get elevated there, right? And you try and keep Mentor. Even in the worst case scenario, when Batman retires, Robin's ready to take over and just put the mask on and go do it himself. So, I mean, there is, David, regardless of what happens, Michigan fans, I don't think, should be pissed at Jim Harbaugh if he decides to leave. No. But again, you've got the best on-the-job trained guy possible. He's already sat in the chair a couple times, right? He's not going to be overwhelmed by it. He already knows kind of how to go about it. He knows the structure and the skeleton of it, even in the biggest games.
100%. No Michigan fan's going to be mad at Jim Harbaugh if he decides to return to the NFL, especially with all this nonsense going on with the NCAA. And look, Michigan itself, there's some internal conflicts. Michigan still hasn't solidified a contract offer to the guy. Especially, they're not going to be mad, especially because of what he just did. It wasn't just you finally beat the Buckeyes for 3 straight years or won the Big Ten championships. You just won the national championship and went 15-0. Do you realize how long we can live off this? I'm going to be talking about this season when I'm 82 years old if I make it that long. So Michigan fans can live off this. I don't even think there'll be an external coaching search, Jake, to be honest, for the reasons you said. One guy in Schembechler Hall, before he's even the head coach, is already 6-0 with a win over the Buckeyes. guys. Sharon Moore went out to midfield and shook hands with Ryan Day after beating him. That's the guy you elevate. Will the ceiling be as high as it was with Jim Harbaugh? Probably not, because we're talking about the greatest season the program just had in its history. But I just don't see the floor being that low, because you're keeping a cohesion together in the time where we've seen the most seismic shifts in college football. And you mentioned something else about, we'll talk later about which NFL jobs and that sort of a secondary thing. It does play into it which NFL jobs are open, because, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is taking every single call. And I thought it was interesting that he did interview with the Atlanta Falcons, and maybe he does take a couple interviews with franchises that he would not take a head coaching job with. But the Chargers being open is the key to this whole thing. And I know we're going to get into this in rapid fire, but Jerry Jones has said that Mike McCarthy is going to be coming back in 2024. So the Cowboys job is not open. That's one less job that certainly Jim Harbaugh would be interested in. But the Chargers job makes sense for so many reasons. How often do you get to jump up to the NFL level and take over a franchise that is not completely destroyed? You have a franchise quarterback in his prime and his contracts taken care of, and you have mega pieces outside of that on both sides of the football. All you need is some guidance and some direction. And for, everything we've talked about with Justin Herbert, where, hey, he's the next star and rising, but he has to quit turning the football over, and he has to develop a little bit more and smooth off some of those edges. Who better than the quarterback whisperer and Jim Harbaugh, who coached Andrew Luck, who coached Alex Smith, who drafted Colin Kaepernick and got the most out of him before he became a sideshow and a disaster. So that job makes a lot of sense. If that job wasn't open, I wonder if we'd be seeing so much smoke right now about Jim Harbaugh to the NFL.
Well, before we get to the chat, you bring up a great point. You said a word that we're not seeing in Alabama right now, that if Sharon Moore were to be elevated to be that guy, it's cohesion, right? I don't think, even though the transfer portal would open for the 30-day rule, if Jim Harbaugh were to go to the NFL, I think a lot of guys would stay, and it would make the transition a whole lot easier. You wouldn't lose nearly as many guys off the ship if Sharon Moore was elevated to the head coach, because you're keeping that continuity. That's a word, right? Cohesion and continuity. Those are going to kind of dictate and define whether teams are able to win over time, or if they're just going to be one-off winners that kind of sink back down to reality, even though we are seeing parity increase in college football, which I think is a great thing. So we're going to continue to monitor this. I saw, David, a report that in the contract that's being renegotiated with Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, that there would be a clause in there saying that regardless of any NCAA, he could not be fired for any NCAA infraction, which basically means it's a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
Like, if that's literally in there, if that's in there, and we know why it's in there. Some thesis on why they're putting that in there. The NCAA and Jim Harbaugh, they're like oil and water. I just, feel like one's Jason Bourne and the other one's the government agency. But when it comes down to it, that is just a hilarious clause. Think about that in any other business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, listen, you work on the stock market. We won't, if the SEC comes in and investigates you for anything, insider trading or whatever, we're not going to fire you, right? We're going to keep you on the stock exchange. Just imagine that in any other form. Like, it's crazy to think about.
I've heard from reliable sources that is the sticking point right now. It's not even so much the money. Michigan has the money to be able to make a mega offer, but Jim Harbaugh's side has said, you can't fire me based off whatever the NCAA is going to come out with on these investigations. And it makes so much sense. I mean, keep in mind, it's not like Jim Harbaugh saying, hey, I want a clause in my contract that says you can't fire me no matter what the NCAA ever comes after me with in the future. No, it's based off these investigations that we're already talking about. And if the athletic director, Ward Manuel, and the university doesn't already know the details of that investigation, especially when the NCAA president, Charlie Baker, has already come out and said, no, Michigan's national championship is not tainted. They won it fair and square. Then why are the investigations even still open? We shouldn't be talking about this. Of course, you should put that clause in. Michigan should have offered that. If you're going to offer a guy a mega contract, knowing that there's these two investigations out there, then why would you offer the guy unless you're willing to acknowledge that part of it? Like, hey, we're not going to fire you based off these things that have already happened, because we know what's in there and we know it's bogus. So that all makes sense. On the Sharon Moore being elevated part of it, you can only do that, I think, because Michigan just won the national national championship. You're playing with a little bit more house money. I think Alabama's mindset was, hey, let's go out and hire the best guy possible to keep our ceiling as high as possible. Maybe there'll be a little regression in the transfer portal, which we're going to get to that today too. There'll be some regression in the transfer portal right away, but we're hiring the best coach possible. Whereas Michigan saying, hey, we don't know if the ceiling will be as high with Sharon Moore as it is with Jim Harbaugh, but you know what? This is the guy who just was on the staff to win a national championship. Let's keep the cohesion. This will get us by 3 or 4 seasons. And if it hits rock bottom, like the way it did when Rich Rodriguez came in when I was there, then we'll make a change.
Yeah, and again, Michigan has that option with Sharon Moore. Bama never had that option. If Kirby Smart was still the DC at Bama and they elevated him, that would be something similar. And and I don't think you would see this I don't want to say mass exodus from Alabama, but it's one thing to lose some guys. It's another to lose the guys, and we're going to get into that with Caleb Downs and Caden Proctor and guys in important positions, even though Bama fans shouldn't panic. I mean, Nick Saban's still involved. So, all right, we're about to get to the Booster Club. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. But if you're one of the millions of Americans, of American men and women dealing with premature hair loss, maybe you're scared about inheriting that thinning look because it runs in the family. Maybe it's already hitting you, or maybe you're just a Cowboys fan that rips your own hair out every time you guys get in the playoffs because you blow it. Well, start 2024 off right with a real solution that delivers on its promise without the harsh side effects, unwanted chemicals, and no need for a prescription. It's Provia. All right, we've talked about this all the time. I know this affects a lot of people. And what's our saying here? You got to look good to play good. Maybe you're getting back in the dating game, right? Maybe you're still in it. Maybe you just want to wake up with a full head of hair and be able to go to work and be able to flaunt that bad boy, right? Recapture the memories. Well, Provia, they can not only prevent hair loss, they help you in every aspect of it. And right now, new customers can save over 50% plus free shipping on Provia's introductory package at proviahair.com/booster. That's PROVIA hair. No, y'all know how to spell that. .com/booster. And every package includes a full 60-day supply of Provia serum for daily use, plus the Provia Super Concentrate for faster, more noticeable results. Now, every order also includes a free gift at checkout. Provia works guaranteed 100% or your money back. So don't wait. Order now and save an extra 10% off and get that free shipping at proviahair.com/booster. That's proviahair.com/booster. It's a great way to get ahead. proviahair.com/booster. All right, David, speaking of booster, let's get to the club.
$5 dono from Trent Kelly. But what happens to that sibling argument if John and the Ravens go win that second Super Bowl this season?
Well, look, the mountain becomes that taller to climb. You're not escaping this, in my opinion. Like there is no escaping it. But what's the only way that you can combat it? What's the only way that you can chisel into it? You got to be at the same level. Again, I think Jim Harbaugh could win 4 national championships at Michigan, but it does not equate. The NFL is a higher level than the Super Bowl. It's one thing to go win 6 state championships in high school. It's another to win the national championship in college, right? So you keep going levels up, levels up, levels up. So, hey, you can have an unbelievably successful career, right? Hey, you tied dad. You won that college national championship, but you didn't do it at the highest level. You didn't hit a home run off Verlander. You may hit one in Double-A playing for the Punxsutawney Bull Weevils, right? Or the Harrisburg Humping Badgers. But you didn't do it.
Oh, he's in here too. Trust me. Humping Badgers in here.
You didn't do it for the Braves. So, like, again, deep down, this is like a visceral thing, right? Like, I'll never forget the one and only time Blaine beat me in basketball in the driveway, which it'll never happen again. I don't care how tall he is. Like, I wanted to get back instantly, right? I want to be the one that you sit down on the table and dad, the golden child, the chosen one, right? Like we say all the time, the boy who lived. Right. There's just a difference, man. Y'all know there's some people out there that know exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly.
I will say on this argument here, there's a big difference there's a bigger between 0 and 1 than there is between 1 and 2, right? Like the argument's softer if John Harbaugh goes and wins 2 Super Bowls, but Jim Harbaugh got 1 Super Bowl and a national championship. I think all things are even, Steven.
Well, and John beat Jim. That's the other element of this. It's not like you just beat the Raiders or somebody like hey, you beat your brother. Y'all two went head up for the Super Bowl. I can't imagine. Like we used to throw hands on NCAA football. God forbid you let us coach a Super Bowl. I'll fight him halfway through the first quarter. Like the minute
Which
there's
they don't like doing, man. They're such family guys, which makes the Chargers job really interesting, Jake.
no, it does.
AFC
They
job.
don't like doing it.
They'd be
They
in the
don't like doing it, but
AFC.
they did it. But they did it,
I heard
right? So
Colin Cowherd making the argument that Washington would make more sense for Jim Harbaugh because it would be in the NFC, wouldn't necessarily have to face your brother that much. You'd be closer geographically, so the whole family could be together, and you'd get that number 2 pick. But look, the Chargers' job is so enticing.
No, I'm not going from dealing with this to the NCAA to Washington D.C. This isn't Washington State. Y'all aren't sending me to Spokane. I'm going to the District of Columbia. I'm over here getting prosecuted for hamburgers, right?
Yeah.
And having a dude make a couple Excel sheets about when you lift your hand above your collarbone, what it means. Then you're going to send me to D.C. Why? So I can get just federally invested, so we can turn to a federal investigation? Somehow I embezzled something? No, I don't trust it. Keep me at the Chargers. Even though, God,
man, you would have thought Jim Harbaugh just had a circuit to pay off referees every game or something.
Well, look, who knows? All right, let's keep it going to the club.
Broken Devil Dog. First off, he says, "Look, we got to get in the studio." He says it's 18 degrees out there with snow, and he's in the office. He said we got to get with it. So that's first up. But then he says, "I'd argue it's harder to turn around a college football program than an NFL program." Your thoughts?
I mean, obviously it depends where you're at, right? It's all circumstantial. But if we're going to talk about the best situation and the best situation and of each, right? To me, it's harder in the NFL because the margin between the best team and the worst team is a lot smaller than it is in college. Like the difference between Bama and Louisiana Monroe is humongous. Right? Not saying that there isn't a decent sized difference between the 49ers and the Panthers, right? But it's a lot smaller than it is Alabama and Idaho State. Like it's so, look, you do have to deal with recruiting. You do have to deal with the NIL and transfer portal and stuff like that now. I do get that. It's all ball when you get to the NFL, but it's the margin of talent difference or ability or structure between the best team and the worst team being smaller. To me, if you just try to bet on the NFL, you realize how drunk this league actually is. Like it's so difficult because at any point in time, the worst team could have a chance against the best team. Florida A&M is not beating Georgia. I don't care how many times they play or how many breaks you catch, right? You'll get broken before that happens.
I think logical arguments can be made for both sides. The flip side of the argument that you're talking about is because there's more parity in the NFL, it allows a franchise to jump back a little quicker. Obviously, it goes without saying that the head coach in this scenario would also need control of player personnel. Right. Like you can't be the head coach and then the GM gets to pick all the players. But if you're someone like a Bill Belichick or like a Jim Harbaugh situation, what he wants at the Chargers, where you're able to pick the players that you want, then you could see a scenario where an NFL franchise could jump from bottommost and flip around to a Super Bowl winner, especially because you don't have to go undefeated. That's one of the things about college football. There's really no margin for error when it comes to losses, which is the most intriguing part about this 12-team playoff that's coming is like how many losses can you sustain and still not only make the playoff, but win the whole thing? Could we see a scenario where a 9-3 team wins the national championship? That'll be interesting for college football.
Look, if you get in, I mean, you give yourself a chance. It's just like anything. Who's playing the best ball at the end of the season? Like you always want to be doing that in every sport, but when you add elimination games, which sudden death games, which is what these are, right? It becomes unbelievably possible to be able to sneak in there and do it.
$5 donation from Ducky. He says, quack, quack, quack. The Ducks are coming for the Big Ten title.
Well, getting Dylan Gabriel and keeping Dan Lanning was huge, that's for sure. You got Tez back. I mean, Oregon is one of those teams where, hey, what do you do when you lose a guy that's played in college for 30 years like Bo Nix? You just go find another guy that's played in college for 30 years like Dylan Gabriel. But here's the question. Can he stay healthy through a football season? He has been not to Tua's level when he gets hurt, but there were some similarities in, feels like parts of Dylan Gabriel's made out of bubble gum, right? And you've got to be able to protect him while using his legs and keeping his effectiveness because Dylan Gabriel can run and he runs heavy, honestly, for a smaller guy, which you may have to tone that down a little bit. But no, look, Oregon, I think is going to have a pretty smooth, the way Oregon plays, the style of football that Oregon plays, transitions a whole hell of a lot better to the Big Ten than a team like USC. If we're getting, this is where building that physicality, this is where building it up front, taking that kind of SEC mindset that Dan Lanning had, bringing it out to a place like Oregon. Like, I don't know, Kyle Whittingham's done at Utah, the team that had won 2 Pac-12 conference championships before their quarterback got hurt and didn't play this year, and Cam Rising. Why did they do that? Because of physicality. I think that transitions a whole lot easier than pretty much anybody else. What I'm interested to see is how the transition for Washington happens when they've lost a couple of their big time offensive linemen. We've seen that probably going to Alabama. You've seen a couple of DBs that are very crucial, that are returning, coming back to Washington, that are now in the transfer portal. How do they transition having a new coaching staff? Obviously bringing in Jed Fish. We'll see how it goes from Arizona. That's another interesting one to keep an eye on.
Here's their schedule. They play 2 games before September 1st, actually. So they got Hawaii on August 24th. Then they have Idaho, and that's at home. Then they go to they have Boise State at home. They go to Corvallis to play Oregon State. UCLA in Pasadena. They get Michigan State at home. They do get the Buckeyes at home as well. They go to West Lafayette for Purdue. They get Illinois at home. They go to Ann Arbor this year to play Michigan, which is a fun one. Maryland at home. They go to Wisconsin, and then they play Washington at the end of the year at home.
That ought to be interesting.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's see who's next on Donos here. All right, that's all for Donos here. But there was one thing I saw yesterday or this week I wanted to get to. So AZ Cactus, obviously, there's a lot of emotions with Jed Fish leaving Arizona to go coach that Washington team. They've gotten their new coach, the guy from San Jose State, Brent Brennan. So tell AZ Cactus why everything's going to be fine in the desert.
Well, look, it's unfortunate because you felt like Arizona's finally had all this momentum in football, and they're going into the Big 12, and Jed Fish was kind of the quirky, outside of the box guy that wasn't a huge football guy his whole life. He's kind of like the business owner that decides he wants to coach college football and is able to actually put it together and do it his way, and it was fun, and it was fresh, and it was new. And then you look at another basketball school like Kansas, where Lance Leipold says, you know what, I'm staying regardless of who tries to reach out to me. But then your guy goes, and he takes some very valuable assistants with him. Now you're looking at the players, and you're wondering what's going to happen there. And you went from the highest you've been in a while to what feels like a very drastic low. And AZ Cactus Fire, I think one of the reasons that our show has had success because we're being honest. Brent Brennan, we're going to see. He looks like the nicest guy ever. Right, I've watched him at San Jose State. I like what he did with Cordero and Nick Nash, kind of being able to handle that situation where Nash was a quarterback and then he was a receiver. We don't know yet. He is familiar with out there and being able to recruit. But for me to sit here and promise that you're going to get the same results as the architect Jed Fish, who kind of got Arizona where they needed to be going into the Big 12, I can't guarantee that. But I do know Brent Brennan knows what he's doing. The jury's still out, and you need to keep that momentum and keep that excitement, because if that excitement dies, it's only going to snowball it if it goes bad. So y'all got to keep up the optimism. Listen, it's like the Vince Vaughn saying, you want to be dangerous, but also safe. Will Brent Brennan give you that? I don't know if he'll give you the dangerous. I think you'll win the games that you feel like you're supposed to win. Can he keep knocking off the teams that Arizona's not used to beating? Now you're going to the Big 12, as I mentioned. We'll see, but it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
AZ followed up and said, Jed is using unorthodox ways to poach our players now.
He's an unorthodox guy. Like, wasn't he like an ice cream salesman before this?
Is that true?
Decided he wanted to coach football? Like, no, Jed Fish was like selling stocks or something. He's like selling penny stocks with Leo DiCaprio or something.
All right, $10 dono from Miss Alyss. Morning, gents! ! Okay, actually, let me read it like that. Morning, gents! That's how it should be read. Blaine read my name wrong last week. Another exclamation mark. It's Miss Alyss, as in Alyssa. So to help him with his pronunciation, I'll have some fun Polynesian player names for him to improve when he gets back. Or for him to improv.
Oh, I love this.
I do love this. Also, this is a high level dono, because when she says Blaine read my name wrong last week, she spelled Blaine Blaine.
Well, see, I don't know if that's maybe a shot at Blaine because he mispronounced her name. So now she disrespectfully spells his name with an E, which I've never understood why his name didn't have an E. To be honest with you, Miss Alyssa, I blame him on that. So you take no You don't worry about that at all. That's on him. That's on my parents. Who doesn't put an E on it? There's an E on the end of Jake, right? It just makes sense. I don't know why we just couldn't have kept that ship rolling. But not a lot of people know this, but if he was a girl, they were going to name him Skylar. I know that for a fact.
Really?
So sometimes I'll just
that should have been his name in Lady Ballers.
We should start calling him Skylar.
I could do that.
On
Fridays especially.
Oh yes,
on
that
Fridays
baby, David,
especially.
that
that'll just hit different.
I actually hope, and Blaine, again, we hope you feel better, but I hope he's like sleeping through this and doesn't listen to it because I don't want him to know it, and I want to just call him Skylar tomorrow and see what he does. And see what he does. All right, one more dono that we're gonna.
All right, that's all the donos we have right now. So I'm just gonna move to the NFL playoff matchups here. I wanted to get your thoughts. So we talked about the Baltimore Ravens a little bit. Houston Texans. I mean, playing like a team right now that just can't be beat. One of these young teams with no playoff experience. I'm talking about like Houston, Green Bay, maybe even the Lions or Tampa. One of these teams is going to go much farther than we think they are. My question is, which one's it going to be? Can the Texans go on the road and beat this Baltimore Ravens team that had the best regular season in the NFL?
Houston Texans 2023-2024, incredible story. What a great uplifting story. But you know what else was a great uplifting story, David?
Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, Little Red Riding Hood.
Those were kind of scary.
Humpty Dumpty, his oval ass was just sitting on that wall having a good time. Maybe drinking some lemonade, checking the girls out or something. And then all of a sudden he falls off and he breaks. And you can't put him back together again. Now you got to go to Baltimore. D'Amico, great season. Great start. The future CJ Stroud, right? Doing all the right things, saying all the right things. You're young. Nico Collins, bright future. Singletary, Dameon Pierce, even Dalton Schultz. Talk about a guy who couldn't be happier to be out of Dallas and in Houston. But the future's bright. But right now you're running into the juggernaut that is the Baltimore Ravens. The team that may be playing the best complementary football, the best three-phase football, the most complete team, them and the 49ers, I would say, out of anybody right now. And with Lamar at home, with all this momentum, with veteran guys, nobody's going to be over-amped to play this game and play out of control. Nobody's going to come into the game without enough emotion and not be able to harness it when it matters the most. But this isn't your typical Baltimore Ravens offense either. This isn't just Lamar Jackson running around hoping Mark Andrews' big ass can get open when it matters, right? This is Zay Flowers. This is Isaiah Likely. And by the way, Mark Andrews did take a big step in practice that they said this week. This is Rashad Bateman. This is a team, even OBJ's kind of turning the clock back a little bit, with a power run game in Gus Edwards, with depth with Justice Hill and guys like that. So you're running into a team that even if they don't play well on offense, their defense is good enough to win games. They can win games in multiple ways. And what do we always say, David? What's the best utility outside of fertility? It's versatility. And that's what you were close. Not utility. All right, you were close. But at the end of the day, I think the Houston Texans magical run, which you're playing with house money anyway. I mean, hell, you've even got a playoff win. I think it ends in Baltimore. Not that it's not a tight game, not that it's not a fun one, but I feel like this Ravens team, that they've got all the answers, that they've got everything they need. And then, of course, you look in special teams. Well, it's probably the greatest kicker in NFL history in Justin.
Yeah.
So I think that the ride ends 9.5. But I think the match
9.5's a lot, man. After I saw Sam Laporta play for the Lions, I wouldn't be surprised if anybody suits up in this game. When you talk about Mark Andrews coming back, This is one of those few games where all 6 phases of football, I'm excited about the matchups. I mean, think about this offense, this Texans offense that Bobby Slowick is leading against a Mike McDonald defense on the Ravens. Both those guys are already really interviewing for head coaching vacancies. And then Lamar Jackson on Baltimore's offense up against this D'Amico Ryans-led defense. I think every phase of this game is going to be fascinating. The 9.5 is a lot, but let's see how it plays out. This is almost an exact situation, but for the NFC, a young Packers team, Jordan Love, first year starting, overperforming, had to get in on the last weekend up against that number 1 seed, and the San Francisco 49ers are going to go on the road. Again, what are the chances that Green Bay just shocks the world like they did in Dallas?
Not very high. Not very high. You're not lining up and running through the Niners front 7 like you did the Cowboys, which was the most shocking part of that game. And if you're the Packers now, you're not sneaking up on anyone. Like, you kind of snuck the Cowboys a little bit. let's be honest. The Texans really didn't sneak the Browns because the Browns haven't been there forever either. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there wasn't a lot of sneaking up in the Houston-Cleveland game. The Packers just came out and just were throwing haymaker after haymaker, and they should be confident. But guess what? Physics is physics, right? Science is science. Going up against the 49ers, who got a week off, right? Didn't have to play. They're as healthy as they've been all year. You've got a healthy C-Mac. We know Brock Purdy is able to step up when it matters the most, and they are probably, pound for pound, the most talented team and one of the most deep teams, if not the deepest team in the NFL. So all week, like they said, Kyle Shanahan said they started preparing for the Packers the second quarter of the Packers-Cowboys game. So, again, the element of surprise, the element of, oh, wow, Jordan Love went 16 for 21. Guys are just running wide open like the chick from The Sound of Music, just on top of the mountain, just dancing in a dress. That's not going to be happening against the 49ers. So, look, what LaFleur's done for the Packers this season with a young Jordan Love should give a lot of hope to the future. They should be optimistic. Hell, they should be Optimus Prime right now. Looking forward to the future with how young the Packers are, but it's the 49ers time right now. And this team is one of the best in the NFL, and I expect them to play like it.
I think you're right. But, man, like you said, LaFleur, he's gone in with number 1 seeds before and lost in the playoffs. Now you go in with as a wild card with Jordan Love at the helm, and you beat the Cowboys on the road. Jordan Love in the pocket, man. I'm blown away by what he's able to do, the way he maneuvers the pocket. So, look, I'm hoping for a great game. Do you know the line on that one right now?
I think it's 10. I think it was 10 the last time I saw it.
Did it get up to 10?
I think it was 10 the last time I saw it. Here's what I'll say, David. Is Green Bay the average Joes
it's so funny
you're dodgeball this playoff? Because I think about it. They're not the 1 seed. They're the wild card, man. Nobody's expecting them to come in here and win this thing, right? Both led by guys, last name's LaFleur. I mean, you got Peter on one hand, you got Matt on the other.
That's true, too.
I mean, hell, Aaron Jones a pirate, like, if we're going to be honest. But now they could be the average Joe's gymnasium, man. Can you survive? Right. This is when you were playing. This is when you were playing the ninjas or whoever it was. Like you got to get by.
3 ninjas.
Yeah, well, not 3 ninjas, but there's a lot. There's 11 of them.
This is how I know we're related somehow, because I was about to go for the same analogy. While this is the average Joe's against Globo Gym, I was going to say the other NFC matchup is a true underdog story with both of these teams, Tampa Bay at Detroit. I mean, of course, Detroit is seeded higher and had a better regular season. Tampa Bay had to scrap their way to win the NFC South. But doesn't it feel like with everything Detroit's had to go through the last 30 years or really throughout their entire history, that this is a true underdog matchup where who do you give the advantage to here?
Yeah, I mean, look, take off your shoes and love me sexy, Detroit. I mean, look, nobody's been this excited in that area since Jackie Moon was
love me sexy.
Oh, dude, yeah, I haven't watched that movie in so long. I need to watch it.
I watched it before we shot Lady Ballers.
Really?
Yeah, Jeremy wanted me to rewatch all the Will Ferrell movies.
Just absolutely hilarious. Here's what I'll say. Outside of if you're a Buccaneers fan, I know we have some Buccaneers fans in the chat. Don't you just want Detroit to win this game?
Yeah.
Like the Buccaneers, you got your Super Bowl with Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people from Detroit, I mean, they've been Oliver twisting this thing with their hands out with the bowl for God knows how long. They won a playoff game, and you thought they'd won a war, like with the reaction. I love it. I'm here for it. The one thing is, and I'll keep saying this about the Bucs, they're just grimy. Man, they're just grimy. They just are. That's how they play this game. They just beat up the Eagles. It's not super sexy. It's not super pretty. If they got to win 9-0, they'll win 9-0. But the Lions, to me, as much as Dan Campbell is a tough, rough, hey, let's get physical. We can turn this into a bar fight. I don't think his team is fully there yet. So there's a little bit of finesse with the Lions and the gumball smuggler Jared Goff going up against the Bucs, but they are at home, right? They are at home, and the Buccaneers are not super explosive on offense. I think the Lions, while defensively they've been better. You look at the front seven with Aiden and some of the guys they got. I don't think the Buccaneers are such a threat that they could overwhelm the Lions and maybe put the Lions in a hole they can't dig themselves out of. I like Detroit in this game. I think this is one of those games where Amon-Ra St. Brown just goes nuts.
You think
just
so?
Absolutely goes nuts.
Even against that Tampa Bay secondary?
But the Bucs secondary has been a little bit hot and cold now. They've been a little bit hot and cold. They've played pretty well lately, but there are times, and this happens to every DB. And listen, I'm a big Carlton Davis guy, Jamel Dean. They went to Auburn, David. Heck, I hope those guys have good games. But eventually you get over. Laporte is able to play. Amon Ra is able to play. J-Mo, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. It's a problem, right?
Yeah.
They got more weapons in Ukraine right now. So I'm going to take the Lions at home. But the Buccaneers, if this is a nasty, grimy, low-scoring, ugly, what I call an Uncle Fester game, right? Just ugly as hell, nasty to look at, don't want to touch. That plays to the Buccaneers' favor. I'm just telling you, but I don't think it will be. I like the Lions.
All right, Kansas City going to Buffalo. We talked about it on Tuesday. Have you changed your opinion at all how this one's going to go?
I think the Bills win the Super Bowl. I'm just going to say it.
Sticking with it?
I think the Bills win the Super Bowl.
You and Andrew Clavin.
I do, man. I know that Josh Allen, I said this Patrick Mahomes is his Pennywise. Right? Every time he gets in the playoffs and something good happens, he just walks in his car and he looks out and just a red balloon just going up in the air. I'll keep saying it. And but at some point, you got to take the rest of the fellas and that one redheaded chick and go down in the well and kill this dude. Like at some point, you got to stop. You're all grown up now, right? You left dairy, thought you could get away from it, but you can't. You got to finish them. How do you be the man? To quote Ric Flair, you got to beat the man. And at some point, the Bills, and we see this in college, Kirby Smart couldn't get over the Alabama hump, finally got over it, right? Michigan couldn't get over the college football playoff hump, finally got over it. Eventually, you can become the one who knocks, right? Eventually, you can reach that mountain if you get enough opportunities. And Josh Allen, then maybe this is the way the story was supposed to be written, David. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be all beautiful from the beginning of the end for the Bills, and they just have an incredible, immaculate season. Maybe it had to start out ugly, right? Every path is different, but if they lead to the promised land, they're all beautiful, right? Was it the cleanest thing, right, for Xerxes' army to take the goat path when that hunchback told him? No, but it led him to the win. Right? It didn't go as smooth as they wanted. They wanted to walk those guys down there and just kick the 300 guys' ass and move on, right? Kick them out of the hot gates and move on. But no, they had to take the goat path. The Bills had to go find the hunchback, right? He couldn't lift his shield to point them where to go, but you're here.
They would have to find the goat path.
And you get them at home. It's the goat path, right? Take it. You got a chance, David.
I'm just seeing Kelsey. I'm just seeing Kelsey high pointing a ball in the end zone at the end of the game. I'm seeing Taylor Swift swag surfing at the end of the game and just call it a wrap. I don't know. We'll see. Justin Decker in the chat here says it's my level up day. It's a great day to have a great day. That's big facts.
It's a great day. Justin, happy level up day, buddy.
King Don Sobek, he wants to know what time call-ins are. He wants to come in hot about the Packers. He said we're doubting the Packers. No call-ins today, but if the Packers win, I need you to be the first caller on Monday.
Good. Look, we will make that happen. If the Packers go and beat the 49ers, you will be we'll open the show with your call. How about that? We'll open. I won't even do a monologue. We'll open the show with your call.
Heartbroke Hog says Mahomes on the road is 38-11 with a 107.6 passer rating and 119 to 33 touchdown to interception ratio.
Again, I'm not going to sit here and doubt Patrick Mahomes' greatness, but I think this will be one of the games because I think he's gonna win more Super Bowls in his career. I really believe that. But I believe this is one of those games. It's like in Little Giants that one time down Cherry Hill, man. It's like he used to beat him. He used to beat him every time, but there's that one time. There's that one. Here we go. He's in the well. In the well. There's 6 of y'all. Y'all just start throwing hands.
Below break cage. Chris Walton says I'd much rather have Eminem in the Super Bowl than Taylor Swift. I think he's a Lions fan.
Yeah, I would assume that, but I also agree with you.
Do you see Jared Goff was saying it'd be pretty cool to like meet Kid Rock and hang out with him. I can't remember how they like phrased the question, but then he was getting so much hate online. Like Kid Rock doesn't represent Detroit and Michigan anymore. Like he's I guess because of his political leanings or something. I'm like, what are y'all talking about, man? This is Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Like who wouldn't want to hang out with Kid Rock?
Yeah. I'm trying to have a good time. Like I'm not trying to ask you about the border. Like, I'm not like, can we just go hang out? Like, everything doesn't have to be, oh, you're on this side or you're on that side, so I don't even want to be friends with you.
They're like we've annexed Kid Rock from Michigan out. Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Have you? Because I'm pretty sure he lives in his mansion.
Make like a Kid Rock diss. Like, something. You ain't Detroit. You won't be anointed or appointed. You'll be disappointed.
All right. Well, you want me to get to rapid fire now?
Yeah, let's get to rapid fire.
All right, rapid fire. First up, like we talked about, the Cowboys are going to stick with Mike McCarthy in 2024. Is this a mistake by Jerry Jones?
Well,
He did go 12-4 this year, and he made the playoffs, the last 3 years in a row?
Yeah, look, do I think Mike McCarthy is a bad football coach? No. Do I think he's the guy that's going to lead the Cowboys to the promised land? No. You want to know why? Because I've watched it not happen for so long. Like what? Mike Greenberg tweeted this out yesterday, literally the moment before I was going to tweet it. He said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, you haven't been able to do it with Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. So what does Jerry Jones do? He just brings back Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. You mean to tell me Nick Sirianni, who just took the Eagles to the Super Bowl last year, and they're talking about him getting fired this year after losing in the playoffs, but sitcom dad Mike McCarthy just keeps walking down the stairs and opening the scene up with Dak Prescott? Like, I mean, again, and RG3 put out yesterday, oh, well, I respect Mike McCarthy, but until the coach is able to cultivate an identity for the Cowboys, I'm going to tell you something. You know, the identity for the Cowboys is Jerry Jones, man. Like it doesn't matter who the coach is, Jerry Jones, right? But the most ironic thing and the most masochistic thing to me is Jerry Jones wants to win a Super Bowl worse than anyone. I do not doubt that.
Yeah.
I do not doubt that at all. But he is the one who keeps getting in his own way of winning a Super Bowl because he just hangs on for too long. He just, at some point, you got to, what does Carrie Underwood say? You got to let Jesus take the wheel. Man, at some point, you got to let somebody take the wheel. Like, and it's not Mike McCarthy, and it's not Dak Prescott. That just at some point, it's not going to work, and you have to admit that this recipe, it doesn't taste good, right? What did Thomas Edison say after he invented the light bulb? And they said, oh, well, it took you 1,000 tries to invent it. He said, well, no, I just found out 999 ways to not make a light bulb. Well, Mike McCarthy is finding out, and Dak Prescott, 999 ways to not make a light bulb. And Jerry Jones is saying, all right, it's the 1,000th try. Maybe you are Thomas Edison. Well, I hate to tell you, they're not Thomas Edison. They're Doofy from Scary Movie. So you need to move on.
3 straight 12-5 seasons, lost in the playoff 3 straight years, haven't even made it to the NFC Championship game with this roster. It's a tough situation, man. This is really tough because you have a coach who's won a Super Bowl before. You're winning the division or getting close to winning the division for 3 straight years, and you're just not getting over the hump in the playoffs, which Jerry Jones at his age, you know what the goal is now. It's to get one more Super Bowl before he goes. And it's tough because this is a guy can do it. He did it when he had Aaron Rodgers, but now it's just they're not getting over the hump.
He ain't got Aaron Rodgers anymore. Look, Dak is as much to blame for this as anyone. And is Dak the only – this is the trap people fall in. You think, oh, it's either all this guy's fault or it's all that guy's fault. It's a collection. It's on everyone. We can agree with that. But we have seen this recipe. You have put this recipe in the pot for a while. While you've got guys like Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb and this offensive line where the window just continues to close, right? Which has been one of the main reasons you've been able to win as much as you have lately. Like it just, at some point, some guys just can't do it. And they're not going to do it. Everybody cannot be the feel-good success story, right? Everybody cannot be Kurt Warner, okay? This just it's not going to happen. And I'm not saying Dak will never win one or that it's impossible. But at what point are the Cowboys going to get off this same hamster wheel and see if you can find – I would much rather have a team finish 9-8 and actually make the NFC Championship game or beyond than do what the Cowboys are doing because you're tricking me. You're tricking me every year. You're giving false hope. And then not only that, it just always ends in disaster. What happened against the Packers was a disaster, right? It's the worst thing to happen to Dallas since Mark Cuban got involved in politics. I'm just telling you right now. Like, it's the worst thing to happen. It's tough, man.
All right, a similar situation here. Mike Tomlin says he is going to coach the Steelers in 2024. This will be his 18th season. Obviously, he has won a Super Bowl with the Steelers, never had a losing season. At the same time, no playoffs in 18-19, lost in the wild card in 20 and 21, no playoffs in 22, and then they lost in the wild card this year.
Well, Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys didn't win a Super Bowl, but that was at another team, right? We've seen Tomlin do this with the Steelers and kind of go through these lulls, and what a great situation when your lulls are nothing but winning seasons. That's a high class problem. But the Steelers fans, and we say this all the time, they have sipped from the cup. They have eaten the filet mignon. You have given them the best, so that's now all they want, right? And I think there's a lot of questions about what the Steelers have, right? What do you really have at quarterback with Kenny Pickett? Is that a long-term solution? We know George Pickens is a dog, right? Najee Harris, in my opinion, somewhat underperformed compared to what a lot of people thought he was going to be doing. I think Warren is just as effective. I think a lot of it is looking at the Steelers right now in the future and saying, what do we really have? It's not like you're a young team that showed a lot of promise that is going to eventually be there, and you're just going to stack piece and stack piece and stack piece. At what point does it just look like, hey, maybe for the future? And I know for the Steelers, y'all have had like 3 coaches over like 1,000 years.
It's true, man. It's crazy.
And that's unbelievably impressive.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about continuity and cohesion. I get that. But, I just wonder at what point does it get stale and you feel like it is time to move on. But Tomlin's earned that right, in my opinion, to kind of push himself out of the door when he's ready. I know some Steelers fans are impatient, but there needs to start being some answers to some crucial questions here in Pittsburgh very, very soon.
I think it shows you what the ceiling is, even for a really great coach, when you don't have the quarterback piece figured out. And I thought drafting Kenny Pickett was a solid move. Maybe got him a little bit high, but you never know how guys are going to develop. I don't think that he's shown to be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger like the city of Pittsburgh was hoping he could be. Flash back a decade when Ben Roethlisberger was in his prime. That's when Mike Tomlin was winning a Super Bowl with this franchise. And there's just only so many Big Ben Roethlisbergers running around. He's a Hall of Famer,
Agreed.
All right, 4 more here. Young Talua Tagovailoa was denied a waiver by the NCAA to play for, what was it going to be, a 6th year in college at Maryland. Your thoughts here on how the NCAA is picking and choosing which guys can come and play extra years of college football and which can't.
I mean, David, I don't know, because that's what they are picking and choosing. Like, there's not like a set of rules, but basically it's just like, well, you're in and you're in. It just reminds me of like Eastbound and Down when Kenny Powers was like picking out those people to come with him. He's like, yes, no, yes, you, no, you, yes. Like, there's no uniform rules. Like, it's the same thing we talked with Tez Parker from North Carolina. There's like 5 games in, they're like, all right, just let him play. Like, he can play. Like, this is the biggest problem with NCAA. It's selective enforcement. Why can Dylan Gabriel play for 30 years, but little Tua can't? Like, how I don't understand this, right? How is Casey Thompson, who just transferred to play his 7th season, able to play, but little Tua can't? Like, there's no uniformity. And when there's no uniformity, there's no organization. And when there's no organization, I can't take you serious. That's why I cannot wait for the NCAA and Charlie Baker or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or whoever the hell to just get away from college football. Go take basketball and Quidditch and croquet and gardening and just stay away from football. Just stay away from it, because it doesn't make sense. It will never make sense to me in how they enforce this, and it's bad for the game. I don't know, David. I really don't know.
Back to the Packers thing for a minute and the Steelers. King Don Sobek said, imagine not being able to draft and develop quarterbacks if you're the Steelers. Yeah, y'all have had a great run of quarterback. Like, the Packers have done with quarterbacks what the Steelers have done with the head coaches. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
All right, so Ross Bork did end up leaving Texas A&M to become the AD at the Buckeyes. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I was kind of trying to get a pulse of A&M fans, and a lot of people instantly are going to be like, oh, we're so glad he's gone because he decided to go to Ohio State, right? It wasn't like Texas A&M fired him and then he got the job as the AD at Ohio State. Ohio State came in and took him. Now, there are some people that rightly pointed out, he hadn't had a ton of success in football. And that's the big dog at A&M, right? We've seen what he's done in baseball with Schlossnagle, even though he wasn't, technically his first choice, some people will tell you. You see what he's done in the periphery sports, and it has been impressive. But at the end of the day, there's some whispers in the wind about a Mark Stoops debacle, right, at A&M, that maybe he really did try and get Mark Stoops, and Mark Stoops really did tell him no, and then he went and got Mike Elko, who, if you squint twice and rub your eyes, really is Mark Stoops. But I understand the, hey, good, we're glad he's gone, because he kind of left on his own accord. But look, Ross Bjork's a good athletic director. Is he the best athletic director in the country? No. Is Ohio State getting a guy that is going to do a good job and there's still questions about football? Yes, but it's already baked in with what Ohio State has right now with Ryan Day and the way we've seen them kind of, be able to build it and stay championship relevant. I think it's a lot easier at Ohio State than it is at A&M. So I think the answer is always somewhere in the middle. I don't think it was this great, amazing thing for Texas A&M. I don't think it was the worst thing ever to happen. The answer is somewhere in the middle, and can we just get Billy Lucci to be the AD? All right, that's what my vote is for. If A&M really wants to turn the corner in football, Billy Lucci, athletic director in College Station, Lucci 2024. You've got my vote.
Boom.
I'm endorsing Billy Lucci right now, live on the air.
Talking about national championship. They'd win it next year.
It's our guy.
All right, two more here. Newly appointed Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo had his first press conference. Justine, do you have the video from that press conference that we can play? Because I want to get Jake's opinion on this.
I do see color, because I believe if you don't see color, you can't see racism. And whatever happens, black, white, disabled person, I've always, even someone with disabilities, I always, for the most part, people are like, when they're young, they kind of make the spot hot. Younger people know what that means. But what I would say is, no, I want you to be able to go up to those people and really understand those people. So it goes back to whatever it is, black, white, yellow, it really doesn't matter, but it does matter, so we can try to fix a problem that we all know. It doesn't matter,
but it does matter.
Well, it's...
The dynasty's dead, Jake.
Listen,
the dynasty's over.
I think you should go watch Todd Bowles. I think Gerard Mayo should go watch Todd Bowles when he gets asked about this. I think it's the best answer. Here's the way I see this. It's sad that we continue to have to just insert race in everything. But Gerard Mayo, all right, that's the case. I need to see some more Native Americans on your roster. Right? I need to see some more Hispanics and Asians on your roster if you really care, right? If we're going to be honest, if you do see color, then you actually open up the door for racism. Let's be honest, right? If it shouldn't matter, right? I thought the goal was to try and train everybody, young or old, to see the content of somebody, to see pretty much everything outside of color or sex or anything like that, so that we can end racism. How in the hell are you ever going to end racism or try and tamp down racism if all you do is see color? Now, that's not saying that you don't point out obvious faults when it's blatantly obvious, but to sit here and say that it's important to see color while talking about defeating racism is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life, because that's exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do. I don't get how this is starting off on the right foot.
That's the thing. This is the first,
your
first speech. Yeah.
Like it's who cares if you're, you don't see people running around complaining that the NFL players are 70% black. Maybe that's what Gerard Mayo's talking about. Maybe he does want some more white corners, right? maybe that's true.
Funny.
Maybe that's what he's talking about. But to me, I don't understand the argument of let's end racism by seeing color. Like somebody, if you can explain that one to me, like, and this is because look, this is what happens. You open yourself up to look stupid, like Jamel Hill talking about Dan Campbell. You open yourself up to look stupid, like Stephen A. Smith talking about how a black coach should never take the Texans job because it's never going to work and it's racist there. It's just, this is what happens when you have people that, and I think Gerard Mayo, I hope for his sake, it works out, not because he's black, not because he's white, not because he's a man, not because of anything else other than I want the Patriots to be good again to add another good team to the NFL. So maybe the product can be better, right? I don't understand, and I'll say it one more time, how to defeat racism by seeing color. I don't.
Well, you
that's
said
like trying
earlier
to defeat obesity by eating Snickers. Like, it just doesn't work.
Well, you said earlier you thought Gerard Mayo probably had the best of intentions with this response, which I think you're right. Like, he probably had the best of intentions. I'm just surprised to see it from a guy who was a Bill Belichick guy, played for him and coached under him. You're the heir apparent. And the mantra for the Patriots for the last 23 seasons under Bill Belichick has been on to Cincinnati. Remember that became the meme and the mantra for this entire franchise, on to Cincinnati. Who are we playing next? That's all that we care about. And already in the first press conference, this guy has gotten into topics which I haven't even heard Bill Belichick ever wade into those waters. And maybe that's what Robert Kraft wants from his next coach. Maybe he wants to get into more of these situations. I don't see a 6 Super Bowl future. I already had problems with the hire just from a tactical standpoint. Like, are you really going to go with another defensive-minded coach when you need to get your 15th pick and Mac Jones coached up, or are you just going to hand it over and kind of hope for a DeMeco Ryans thing where defensive coach, draft a quarterback high and let a rookie go make the playoffs? That's not a great strategy to me, but the Texans are doing that. But now it just tells me that I don't have a lot of hope for 6 more Super Bowl dynasty in the Patriots' future.
Yeah, well, I don't think they were doing that anyway. But here's the question, David. I think everybody, I think even black people are so sick of this argument in the NFL. Like, let me ask you, David, who makes more money in the NFL, the players or the coaches?
Players.
What percentage of the players are black? 70%?
65, yeah.
So you mean to tell me what an amazing world to live in, where you can scream racism against a certain group when that group is the overwhelming majority of the highest paid part of that said business.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
But the new argument, because 65 to 70 or 75% of the players are black, then that means the head coaches and the general managers and the owners should be too. I just never see that argument being made in any other area of life.
Well,
so if 85% of CPAs, these public accountants, are Caucasian, if you said, well, that means that the owner of the accounting firm and their manager needs to be Caucasian as well, you would get fired if you said that.
Yeah, you want to know? Look, why is it like that? Because those are the best guys for that job, right? That's the greatest part about sports, is if you're either good enough or you're not good enough. Doesn't matter what color you are. The ball doesn't care what color you are. A fastball doesn't stop halfway and say, "Oh man, it's a white guy. I better stop moving. I better slow down." Like that. That's not how this works. We got to stop this. Stop with this fake racism stuff. If anything, it's slanted towards African Americans in the NFL. They make the most money. Like this, it's just it just blows my mind. It just absolutely blows my mind. This is still an argument, but this is a stupid people fall for this. Let's just be honest. And it's virtue signaling. Deep down, Gerard Mayo is probably drinking after this press conference with some of the coaches like, God, I can't believe I got to talk about this stupid. My agent said I had to do this. It's a trick. It's a trick.
All right, last one here before we get to some more donos. I saw you repost something that Outkick had posted on X, where Shador and Silo Sanders skipped Colorado's first team meeting of the year so that they could be at Paris Fashion Week. Justine, I was wondering, do we have that photo? There it is, the photo at Paris Fashion Week, or the hunting lodge.
Well, I just wonder who from Minecraft dressed them. But David, like, imagine.
You have to go hunting in that.
No. Yeah. Especially, I mean, if you're going in open spaces. But David, here, like, imagine having those options. Like, I never once was like, God, do I go to this team meeting, or do I go to Fashion Week in Milan? Like, I need it to be fact check and proven that they skipped the team meeting to do this. Because it sounds like one of those things where someone says it and then we react to it, because obviously, if they really missed a first team meeting to go do this, I'm going in on you and I'm going in on you hard. But then they try and bait it later and say, no, the meetings don't start until next week. I'm not, though, David. I'm not. I want you to think about 20-year-old David Cone at
Mhm.
Michigan. If your starting quarterback, who was a proven guy on the field, Shador balled, let's be honest, right? Really, both of them. Shiloh did too, I thought. They played well. How many players, 20-year-olds, I'm not talking about 34-year-old David Cone, right? Papa Cone now. I'm not talking about that. It would have been if our starting third baseman would have came up to me and been like, guys, last year I hit 320, 12 bombs, right? It was pretty good in the field. First team meeting is like January 17th, but I just got invited to go to Paris week, like as a main person there. We'd all been like, dude, can I come? Like, I don't think anybody's like,
So then
I
take the
hate
whole
these
team,
losers.
move the team meeting
See,
back,
but
cancel the team meeting, move it back. His
like,
father
it's
controls
such-
the football schedule.
it's
Like,
such
what are
a
we doing? The
weird-
quarterback can't be at the first team meeting. When you asked me about 20-year-old David playing quarterback would have never missed a team activity. Period.
To go to if they said if I don't know,
Especially not to go to Paris Fashion Week to put that crap on.
But
Are you
for a
kidding me? You're
20-year-old
talking about a
David
hit to
wouldn't-
my reputation. I don't want to be anywhere near wearing stuff
you're from
like that.
Statesboro, man. Like, I get that though.
Even though my hunter friends would have thought that.
So
outfit
if
was
Chad
pretty
Henne would have came up to you and said, "Hey, Cone, I'm gonna miss the first team meeting because I gotta go to the Indy 500 and drive the pace car." Like, you'd have been like,
man, that's awesome. I'm gonna be here working trying to take that spot.
oh my god. Well, that's why you have a get off my lawn segment. But I don't
Oh.
think this is as to and from maybe from an outside looking in, like it looks bad, but I don't think to the team in the inside that they may look at it as hey, you want to know how badass we are? Like, our quarterback's not here right now because he's at Fashion Week
4-8
in Paris.
4-8.
Well, coming off of 1-11.
See, yeah. So you didn't win as many games. So you
total?
didn't win as many games at Colorado as Mel Tucker did in his first year. Congrats. But all this hype, though.
Yeah, well, we
all
also
this
had an
hype.
offensive line that wasn't made of tears and wishes.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like the blame is always going to be put on someone else when it comes to the standards. But
David,
look, they would get some serious love from the Hunter crowd in those outfits, though.
Yes. Well, look, and if you're going to go to Paris week, or if you're going to go to Fashion Week, in Paris, you got to make sure you're fueled up. And at the Daily Wire, Black Rifle Coffee is what fuels us.
Ooh.
Not only do they have ready-to-drink cans for people with no time to brew, so you can hop on that jet to get to Milan, right, in the traditional way, but their coffee subscription gives you the chance to purchase limited edition flavors. It gives you nothing but the best. We drink it all the time. Listen, it's like I say, I don't even think caffeine affects me anymore, but I love the taste. It's smooth. They got amazing selection of roasts, Blackbeard's Delight, Gunship, Power Llama, which is basically a llama with a cannon on it, or as we call it, an Egyptian tank. But they're also a veteran-founded coffee company that's operated by principal men and women who honor those who protect, defend, and support our country. And with every purchase you make, they give back. So save money and drink America's coffee. It's what's in this cup right here. All right? Go to blackriflecoffee.com. Use promo code BOOSTER at checkout for 10% off your one-time purchase or first coffee club order. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Promo code BOOSTER for 10% off. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. All right, David, we got one more on rapid fire. Is that Bama?
No. Alabama. Alabama just continues to lose more and more players to the transfer portal and recruits. Talked about Caleb Downs as safety entering the transfer portal and a couple others. What are your thoughts here? To me, it doesn't seem like this is panic mode. You hired the best coach possible for the long term, not just to keep a couple of the big players you had on this year's team together. Now, the quarterback position is going to continue to be interesting because of the style system Kalen DeBoer runs with Jalen Milroe. But your thoughts on what is kind of becoming a mass exodus, but I just wanted to see how you saw it.
Well, David, I think it depends on how you look at it, and you used a phrase there, long term. I mean, you look at these things in long terms because you realize how this goes, right? That football is cyclical, that you can't just have a knee-jerk reaction to something, that it's a marathon, not a sprint. But Alabama fans have not had to wait long term in a long time, right? That they've been spoiled by Nick Saban, and that's great. That's not a bad thing. Just like I want to spoil my kids, I want to spoil them in the right way, right? But I want to be able to give them everything they want as much as humanly possible, right? That's not going to be detrimental to their development. But when you're giving your fan base national championships and college football playoff appearances and SEC championships, right? That's something you never want to end, right? You're not going to stunt their development as long as you're the head coach there. Well, now you're not. And most Alabama fans are not going to look at this in long term. And there's a little bit of a reason to be worried, I think, because it's one thing, right, to lose guys. We see this all the time when coaches leave. Hell, we see it when coaches stay. One of the hardest problems is re-recruiting your own guys. But it's another thing to lose the guys, right? Caleb Downs is your best player on defense, in my opinion. He's the best DB in the country. If there was a 6-star or a 7-star prospect, Caleb Downs is that. And losing T-Rob, I think, is one of the main reasons you're seeing him go into the portal. And every update's been that he's leaving, and it's probably going to Georgia, which makes it hurt even worse, right? Because that you were the Emperor and they were Vader. Well, now the Emperor's gone and it's just Vader, and he's accumulating some of your wealth and weapons. Then you look at Caden Proctor. And I know Caden Proctor gave up some sacks this year, but any Alabama fan that doesn't want to hold on to a freshman future NFL player that may have had a little bit of struggles going up against some of the best talent in the country as a pup over the long term has lost their mind. So Alabama fans, the ones that are used to the instant return, which has really been all they've been given since outside of year one in Nick Saban, they are going to panic. Should Alabama fans panic? No. Should they be all as excited and think nothing's going to change? No. The answer is somewhere in the middle. So I will say what I've said, and I will continue to say, whether it's on 3 with Andy Staples, whether it's on our show, whether it's on radio, whatever. I think Kalen DeBoer's tenure is going to be defined by the level of freak out in the Alabama fan base, right? The first time something inevitably goes wrong. Because with Nick Saban, there was leeway there. Why? One, because of what Nick Saban had done in the past. He'd won so many championships and given Alabama fans so much, you could swallow a loss to Texas at home, right? You could swallow maybe not playing that great at USF. And even at that point, Alabama fans, some of them wanted Nick Saban fired. Not all of them, right? I'm not putting everybody in there, but they thought, oh, well, Nick Saban's done. He's never. What does he do? Turns it around, beats Kirby in the SEC championship, goes to the playoff. He also got leeway because he's proven he could fix it. Anytime anything's ever been broken for Alabama, he fixed it. Hurry up, no huddle was a problem. He fixed it, right? The offense was a problem. He fixed it. This past season, the whole team was a problem. He fixed it, outside of the defense, really. And even they struggled sometimes. He fixed it. Kalen DeBoer gets no leeway. You haven't won anything for the Alabama fan base. You haven't proven that you can fix anything in the SEC. You've got to prove that you can get the benefit of the doubt and the leeway, and you haven't done that. So what happens if they go up and lose at Wisconsin and then Georgia back-to-back? Is it just panic and pandemonium? What happens if they do go 8-4? Is it oh no, this is a disaster? It's always tough when you replace the GOAT. Not just because you're replacing a guy that has won a lot of games. Kalen DeBoer's won a lot of games. Kalen DeBoer's won a lot of big games. But you're replacing a beloved figure that changed the lives of every Alabama fan for the better. So yeah, you're going to get panic. You're going to get some people that say, hey, let's see how it ends up, right? Because this is just part of the new transfer portal era, this, that, and the other. But I'll tell Alabama fans this. He's not going to be able to recreate what Nick Saban did. I don't think anybody's going to be able to do that. And if there's one person out there that can, it's probably Kirby Smart right now with what they've done. But this guy has won everywhere he's been. You have to give him a chance, right? And the first time it inevitably goes wrong, you've got to be able to see the beach through the forest. But I really honestly think it's going to fall on deaf ears because 90% of SEC fan bases would be pissed off anyways, and especially Alabama, which has had the best Christmas of all the Christmases for so long that the minute you don't get every present you want, you can't pitch a fit and want to call the cops.
Well, I've always said if the head coach of a program leaves, then the players he recruited should be able to transfer as well. I said that long before this whole transfer portal mess opened up because, that's the person who recruited you. That's why it's there, especially when it comes to a schematic fit, right? Now, you said something the other day I think is true when you used the phrase, some guys just want to transfer. And especially at 18, 19, 20 years old, when you've been getting yelled at all season to perform better and it's hard and you're away from home the first time, people want to transfer and think the grass is always greener on the other side. You know, I firmly believe that when you made a commitment to a place, you should do your best to honor that commitment, unless there's some opportunity that is just going to put you in that much better of a position to succeed in the long term. Maybe that's the decision some of these guys are making, even though I don't see Caleb Downs' future being any brighter if he goes to Georgia or if he transfers to LSU than if he were to stay at Alabama. My question for you is, given the era of NIL and guys are trying to maximize their value and their compensation, is there an element of entering the transfer portal here from some of these guys just to like leverage the new coach at Alabama and maybe they return?
Well, I think every case is circumstantial, right? I don't like when we generalize everything and put it all into one pot. Like everybody's trying to leverage, money in NIL by getting in the transfer portal, when some guys are hopping in the transfer portal because they genuinely want to leave and they do want to keep it about business. But maybe they want to follow a guy like T-Rob. So I do think, though, why would you not? And listen, this happens in business all the time. You may not like it. You may not like that guys can get in the transfer portal and leverage their ability to maybe get more NIL money or leverage themselves in certain situations to accumulate something that benefits them in college football, right? But people get pissed off, and this is talking. If you don't like the tax loopholes that people take advantage of, then don't have tax loopholes. But don't get mad at me if I'm making a smart business decision by leveraging myself in the transfer portal. And I'll go a step further, David. Right now, there's never been a smarter time to commit to a coach, not a place. Why would you commit to just a place right now when you have the summer of love and the 70s type freedom of the transfer portal? Hell, I can just go where he goes. And if he's the head coach and he decides to go somewhere else, that now opens me up to be eligible to go with him. And I'm already going to commit to him because I think he's my guy, philosophically, schematically, to benefit my future. A lot of guys committed to Nick Saban, and they were smart too.
Yeah.
Why would I not commit to a coach when I can follow him around everywhere, right? So a lot of people don't like it, and I get it, because college football, we love it because it's that local feel, right? You feel closer. It doesn't feel as corporate as the NFL. And a lot of the changes feel pretty corporate. But if I'm a employee while a business is becoming more corporate, I'm going to take advantage of every area to be able to give myself the chance to accumulate the most I can and be able to take care of myself and my family the most. And I'm not going to look down upon somebody for taking advantage of a tax loophole if the loophole is there. That's called being smart.
Yeah, it's a wild west right now for sure. All right, let's Justine, do we have, before I read these donos, do we have the huddle up that we put together? The last college football huddle up of the year.
Let's take a look at this Michigan touchdown by Donovan Edwards in the national championship. This is 21 jumbo, trade to bunch left, swap pistol, duo left. Let's break it down. Sharon Moore and Jim Harbaugh have done a fantastic job all season long, mixing up personnels, shifts, motions. This play is a perfect encapsulation of that. We have 21 jumbo personnel here. So this is 2 running backs, halfback, fullback. We have 1 tight end, 1 wide receiver, and we brought in an extra tackle to give us 6 offensive linemen. And we're going to trade from heavy right formation to bunch left with the tackle off the ball and the fullback being on the line of scrimmage. Very unusual there. Already Washington is struggling to align against this. Now, there was a lot of debate online whether this was duo technique or whether this was inside zone. Looked like duo to me with the double team on the nose guard at the point of attack, and Donovan Edwards has his eyes to the second level reading these backers, which is a duo read. But some say you can only run duo to a tight end. That's not happening here. Either way, Washington is out of position on the backside, not so much on the front side, and Washington was in position for much of the game against Michigan's run, but it's so important against heavy run teams to remain gap sound, a defender in every single gap. Here you see the backer scraping over the top. Donovan Edwards sees that hole. He hits it, and he's gone for 46 yards for a touchdown. What an incredible run by a selfless guy, a non-starter who has shown up for some of Michigan's biggest games the last 2 seasons. Congratulations to the Wolverines. 15-0, perfect season, national champs, unbelievable run. This was 21 jumbo, trade to bunch left, swap pistol, duo left.
Great stuff as usual, David. I know that's a lot of people's favorite segments. One of mine. You talked about Donovan Edwards, amazing story, right? It wasn't really in the fold this season that much. All of a sudden, you get him in the national championship game. He really set the tone early for Michigan. 2 really explosive plays. To be honest with you, he looked like the fastest person on the planet. I know he's fast, but Washington looked pretty slow, honestly, chasing him, and he's returning, which is huge for Michigan. So great stuff as usual, man. I'm already ready. We got to get some NFL ones for the playoffs. I know people.
Yeah, some people wanted breakdowns of some of the most iconic football plays in the history of the sport. So maybe we'll think about that in the offseason. If Justine's down to help me with them, then we can put something together. But that'll be the last college football one for the year. So sad that it's over, but we're happy it happened, and it's fun to end on a Michigan one. That's on it. That's
a good way for you to go out.
Didn't think that would happen. All right, $2 donation here from Justin. Do y'all think Kirk on the Dallas Cowboys would be a good fit? I assume
Kirk Cousins?
I assume.
Yeah. I think the question now becomes, if you're going to talk Dallas Cowboys, quarterbacks, do you go do the mercenary situation? And if you're going to go bring in a mercenary, I don't know if Kirk Cousins would be the first guy on my list, but I want a guy that's kind of more proven in the playoffs. Like, I don't want to replace a guy who's struggled had really good regular seasons and struggled to do anything in the playoffs with a guy who's had a lot of really good regular seasons and struggles to really do anything in the playoffs. So I don't know if Kirk Cousins is the answer there in Dallas. I think there's some guys maybe that would give you a better shot down the road. Or do you go young? Do you try and make a move in this draft and go get a guy and say, listen, maybe we could have a CJ Stroud situation where he's so young he doesn't realize he shouldn't be doing this. But I do want to say Auburn added Derek Nix as the offensive coordinator too. I saw that. Mention that. Really good hire there. It's going to be more for recruiting.
From Ole Miss, right?
Than anything. And there's a little back and forth with Lane Kiffin.
I saw that.
And, the Auburn fan base, kind of the way Lane trolls on Twitter. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but anyway, let's get back to the Booster Club.
Okay. $2 donation here from Charlie Sinclair. Harbaugh to the Chargers, a lock? ? Certainly not a lot, because Jim Harbaugh is asking for a lot, not just monetarily, but he wants player personnel control, staff control, all that kind of stuff. But they're certainly the favorite right now, right, Jake?
Look, if you're trying to figure out what Jim Harbaugh is going to do, the only locks there are the ones on the doors in his house, and you're not getting in there either. So I don't think you can use the word lock in Jim Harbaugh with really anything. Nothing would, let me put it this way. Nothing would shock me with Jim Harbaugh. If Jim Harbaugh came out today and said, you know what, I've decided I'm going to coach women's basketball, I'd be like, oh, well, yeah, it's a Jim Harbaugh thing to do. Like, it just, I think he does a really good job. He has a great poker face, right? And his poker face may look goofy. It may look quirky, but it's always the same. And the whole point of a poker face is for you not to know what I'm doing next. And for Jim Harbaugh, brother Charlie, I don't know what the hell this man's going to do next.
All right, here. Quade Aiken says, David, still waiting for my apology for you picking against the Oilers, 2 best players in the world and 11 wins in a row. Show some respect. Quade, I will apologize to you for absolutely nothing, but I will yell at former David for ever trusting the Maple Leafs, and I'll make it up to you by picking the Oilers tonight, because I don't have my bets yet. So the next time they play, I will certainly. I'll blame Kirk in Canada.
Wait,
all right,
take
let's
that
see.
anger and put it to Kirk.
Yeah, put it towards Kirk. All right, here. Hold on. I've got it. Scanning. $5 donation from Chase Mills. I've been doing it my whole life, brother. Why is Rodney Terry so soft? If you don't like it, then maybe don't lose to UCF at home. Talking about the Texas horns down situation last night.
Yeah, look, here's what I'm going to say. I don't know what's happened to Texas basketball. They have fallen off the cliff. I think they may be 0-3 right now in Big 12 play after losing to UCF at home, after they hopped out 22-8. But what he's referencing is Rodney Terry, the head coach of Texas, who's under a lot of pressure right now. I mean, you are the head coach at Texas. You're really always under pressure, but especially right now. Said that UCF's players, I guess, like half of them had like horns down in the line to go like shake hands at the end. And here's what I'm gonna say. He was complaining about that. I'm going to tell everybody in Texas this, and I know a lot of Texas fans really don't have a problem with the horns down, right? But some do, and obviously Rodney Terry does. And there is a time and a place for everything. But you better stop with this soft serve, man, before y'all get in the SEC. I'm just telling you. You come in here crying. Nate Oates just pushed a guy on the other team, like the basketball coach at Alabama. So whether it's basketball, whether it's so, and there's a lot of positive things going on at Texas, and I'm excited for them to join the SEC. But this whole, oh no, cry me tears because you're using our most famous hand signal against us. Like, y'all got to stop with that. The referee's already said it's a penalty if you do it in the end zone. I don't know what else y'all want. Which is crap. But, like, y'all got to stop with this. Y'all, they're going to Steven Glansberg. Y'all, you can't go into prison day one dressed like Raggedy Ann now.
You should wear it as a badge of honor, man. You have one of the coolest hand signs in college football or in sports. Obviously, other teams are going to do something with it. I'll say it every time this comes up. A negative reaction by Texas fans to horns down is super soft, and you don't want to be coming into the SEC with that mindset.
Well, there's a commercial on TV, and I'm not going to reference which one it is, but people are going to understand, where this guy is talking about, like, doing ninja stuff, like this normal looking white guy's got like nunchucks, and he's like, I used to do this in the playground and I would get bullied mercilessly. And listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with karate, okay, or anything like that. Taekwondo, knock yourself out. But, like, don't expect if I walk out of recess and when we're 11 years old and you're dressed up like a ninja doing something with nunchucks, overweight in your ninja suit, if I don't laugh.
You talking about Diamond Dave?
Not Diamond Dave.
You talking about Diamond Dave?
Ninja school. That's serious stuff, David. You go losing your leg. All right. I'm talking about, like, if you do stuff to get made fun of, don't be surprised when you get made fun of. So stop doing stuff to get made fun of. It's a bad look to me.
All right, $5 donation here from Heartbroken Hog. Huddle Up is too awesome to end. We need you to do the greatest plays of all time. I better see some old Bobby at Arkansas to remind everyone. Well, if I did some old Bobby Petrino at Arkansas, that would probably include my former teammate Ryan Mallett. That might be a nice salute to Ryan.
That could be. I like that.
Do a play. All right, that's all the donos right now. I can pick some comments though. Let's see.
You're doing great handling the chat today, Dave.
Thank you. Broken Devil Dog, that's such a crazy thing to be soft about. Chirping is part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not like, somebody called your kid fat at school and, like, you got to look him in the eyes and explain to him, like, why like people are saying that. I mean, it's horns down. You got beat don't lose to UCF at home. Like, how about that? How about play better?
Yeah.
How about that? Like that'll fix it.
Christopher Jordan says, hate Nate Oates, but I think he was just trying to diffuse a situation. Is he talking about the pushing and shoving?
Yeah, I understand both sides of this. This is what I put on social media. One, if I'm the opposing coach, if I'm Dennis Gates, don't ever put your hands on one of my players. Now we have a problem. Like now I'm walking over there to possibly put my hands on you. Like, you can say what you want. You can complain about it. You don't put your hands on one of my guys. Like, you do that. I thought Dennis Gates kind of took, and I know you say classy, whatever. You put your hands on one of my players or one of my kids, because a lot of times it's both. The way these coaches look at it, we got a problem. All right, keep your hands to yourself or whatever with your own players. Don't touch my guys. But on that same thought, dog, and get away from my bench and our huddle that's about to form. I know there's a timeout that was just called. It was kind of not of a scrum, but a lot of guys were standing around. But you were right where Nate Oates was going to meet with his guys. So I can understand both of them. But what I can't understand is that it wasn't at least a double technical. Like, you literally got publicly reprimanded by the SEC, but it's not a foul. So that's the biggest part I didn't understand. So that was an interesting moment for sure.
We got a couple here. Texas is always soft serve because they are in Austin, Texas. And we have that coach ain't ready for Arkansas if he don't like horns down.
No, like, it's going to be brutal. I'm just telling you guys, don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to yourself. Like, just don't. I promise you. It's not worth it.
All right. That's all the donations we have for today. I hope I got them all.
David, like I said, I think you did a really good job. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to be remote tomorrow. Should be back in the studio on Monday. Want to get to bets? Here's what I got tonight. Went 1-1 yesterday because for some reason Creighton just must have been going to get a pineapple on their birthday and swerved and missed a cow and hit a tree until they forgot how to play offense. But outside of that, it was a pretty good day. Give me Colorado -6 at home against Oregon, going off at -15. And then the Zags. I know they went on the road to Santa Clara and lost to a team that has volleyball lines on the court. But now you get to go to Pepperdine. You're 11.5-point favorite. I think you obviously want to make up for the way you played on the road against Santa Clara. Give me the Zags -11.5 tonight. That's going off at -112.
All right. What bet should I take tonight? Should I just tweet them out? Do the Oilers play tonight? That's my question. They do. They play the Kraken.
Well, you
but
need
their
to
money line. Okay, I'm going to deep dive on my picks, and then I'll tweet them out.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you check out Black Rifle, check out Provia. Use those promo codes. Blaine hopefully should be back tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining us, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Go grab some merch too. Check out Lady Ballers if you haven't. And like this snow, at least this morning, until it snows again tonight, we're going, gone.